I had a busy week. Doctor's appointments for my back problems, physical therapy for my back problems, and movies for my addiction problems. I wanted to see 4 different movies in theaters this week, which is a lot, and I got to see 2, being the new Studio Ghibli movie, The Boy in Heron, and The Holdovers. The others I wanted to see, for the record, were May December and Dream Scenario. The closest theater showing May December is an hour away, and I'm not dragging my dad to an A24 movie on the day of its release at 7 p.m. So we're sticking with these 2, and I figure I'll review both of them in one big video. We'll start with the more wholesome one, which is not the Ghibli movie. Oh, also spoilers for both of these, so if you're only here for one, check the timestamps in the description so that I don't reveal the entire plot of the other. And if you haven't seen either, get out now. The Holdovers is the Christmas movie of the year. Maybe it's a bit early for that, but it's a wonderful little film that just makes you feel all warm and cozy. That's not to say this movie is good times all the way through. It can actually be quite depressing at times, but the vibe throughout and the point that it ends on are both just super sweet. Let's get into why. The main trio consists of Paul Giamatti as Paul Hunnam, an overbearing, strict schoolteacher, Dominic Sessa as Angus Tully, a seemingly spoiled rich boy who turns out to have a more complicated life than is first seen, and Divine Joy Randolph as Mary Lamb, a school cook recovering from the death of her son in the military. I think the key thing to what makes these characters so compelling is their relationships to one another, so I'm going to go through those one by one. Paul and Angus is the most important, as it goes from Paul thinking Angus is just like the rest of the rich brats and refusing to let him have any fun, to him taking on a father figure role when he realizes the issues in his life. And I love one character being another's father figure. Good Will Hunting is my favorite movie. Their relationship becomes most compelling when they begin sharing their true thoughts with one another, as Paul reveals he was framed for plagiarism and expelled from Harvard, while Angus reveals his father has not died. The most cathartic, genuine line delivery in the movie has to be when Paul catches Angus attempting to run away and pries the information out of him, but when he realizes all Angus wants to do is see his father, he responds, "Yes, of course we can go," showing how truly sad he is that Angus even thought he wouldn't allow it. That shit is actually beautiful, and the cut to the mental hospital instead of a graveyard right after broke my heart. They don't even show you the conversation between them, revealing his father isn't dead, but you just know, that Paul still took him without a doubt about it. He was probably, screaming at the cab driver to go faster. Mary's role in the story of both Paul and Angus is partly to give them advice and lead them on better paths, which could make her a less compelling character on paper, but Divine Joy Randolph plays it perfectly. Her and Angus seem to have this unspoken bond, especially in a scene early on in the movie when Angus sits in the church and stares at the picture of her son, while she watches from a pew further back. This scene only becomes more tragic when it's revealed that Angus will be sent to military school if he fails another year. From then on, Mary protects Angus from Paul over and over due to her true understanding of his pain, and I just love it. That brings us to Paul and Mary, who are the only pair that know each other before the story starts, but not nearly as much as they do when it ends. Mary clearly knows of Paul's obsessive and cruel behavior towards the students, and while she can understand it, she spends lots of time reeling him in and stopping him from going too far. Once he realizes his mistakes and changes, she's still there to help him, offering advice about how to handle the different people in his life, including himself, hoping for him to lead a life outside of the school. It's really wonderful. When you put all 3 of these characters together, you get scenes like the Cherry's Jubilee or the Inside Firecracker, and man, if that doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy, you're not human. And when something inevitably goes wrong, with Angus being possibly sent to military school, Mary is there to comfort him, and Paul is there to jump on the grenade, letting himself be fired so Angus can pass. This movie would be nothing without those 3. To wrap up The Holdovers, I need to mention a few of its flaws, because it's not a perfect movie. I think all the rich boys are just kind of annoying, especially since they leave the story too early for them to become interesting. Like, Kuntz is just kind of a racist, classist piece of shit, which makes him not very fun to watch, and he's also not a deep character, at all. I'm stuck between wishing they were in the movie less and wishing they were in the movie more so that they would be better developed. And the only flaw I have with the main trio dynamic is probably that it gets a bit repetitive when Angus asks for something, Paul turns him down, then Mary tells him he should give it to him, and then he does. That happens about 3 times in a row, and it gets noticeable. But whatever, man. This movie is so fun. It's going to be a great Christmas rewatch if it comes out on DVD in time, but I honestly wanted to stay in theaters. 8 out of 10. Let's go to the next one. The Boy and the Heron, or How Do You Live If You're Cool, is the newest Studio Ghibli movie, and it's one of the weirdest, if not the weirdest, they've ever made. It comes from Mr. Hayao Miyazaki, and was meant to be his last movie until he changed his mind, I guess. Apparently, he does that a lot. Definitely my favorite thing about this film is how it channels the absurdist, confusing feel throughout most of the second act, before revealing its hand in the end and making everything make sense in an incredibly beautiful way. Let's get into the details. As usual for Ghibli, we're following a quiet child with a tragic backstory. Mahito Maki is recovering from the death of his mother in a hospital fire a year before the story takes place, and is moving to a new town with his father and his father's new wife, his mother's younger sister Natsuko. The first section takes place entirely in this normal world in this new town, which is very interesting despite the uneventful story. Even though he's only 12 years old, Mahito makes himself a bow and some arrows because he's a Ghibli protagonist, running after that gray heron that keeps harassing him, and finding a tower in ruins that becomes very important later on. You also meet a lot of the side characters who mostly disappear after the movie moves into the special world, such as the previously mentioned Natsuko, whose pregnancy causes her to see Mahito as her sister in a very depressing scene, or a random old man who smokes a shit ton of weed. You really get everything you need. And with that, as well as the beautiful score and incredible landscapes, this part of the movie is not at all a bore. But the movie really gets going when Mahito looks for Natsuko after she wanders off into the forest. He goes to that mysterious tower and runs into the gray heron again, who finally gets him to travel where he's been asking him to go this whole time, to go see his apparently living mother. In the alternate world, all sorts of weird shit happens. Pelicans eat these tiny little guys called wara wara. Humanoid parakeets run a society. It's the type of stuff you would only see with Ghibli, and I love it. I also want to mention the sound, which is incredible throughout the entire film, but really shines here. Maybe it's because this is only the second Ghibli movie I've seen in theaters, but I swear, this one had some of the most impressive sound design I've heard in any. Even tiny little sounds like one of the characters drinking a bowl of soup are detailed and unique. It was, and I apologize if this sounds corny, like I was in the movie. We also meet more fun side characters like a younger badass version of Kuriko, the old maid that followed Mahito to the tower, that sells creatures she hunts to weird shadowy men, and Himi, a younger version of Mahito's own mother that uses fire magic, and both are super fun to watch. Admittedly, though, this is where the movie was starting to dip in quality for me. By this point, I was very confused and not entirely sure where the story was going. First, Mahito was searching for Natsuko, now he's searching for his mother, and now the Heron is a weird little stubby short guy, and now the parakeets are humans, and now I'm realizing I'm not as down for the surrealism as I thought I would be. Don't get me wrong, I liked it, I was still enjoying myself, but I was enjoying myself less and less as the movie got more and more out there. I was scared it would misstep or change too much of what it was originally going for. But I needn't have worried, because of course they bring it back. When Mahito finally does find Natsuko, the two have an aggressive encounter where Natsuko screams at the boy that she hates him, and that masterful ability that Ghibli has to give you an immediate feeling of dread and sadness comes back once again. Plus, again, the sound and visuals add to it so much. Right after that, Mahito is thrown into more trouble when Himi is captured by the Parakeet King, so while he's able to give Natsuko a way out, he's not able to go with her. He then goes looking to save Himi, but instead finds his granduncle, a character mentioned a few times throughout the story. He is the creator of the ruined tower, and has spent many years protecting an assortment of stones that hold up the universe they've been in, and now wants Mahito to take over. This is when the movie begins to show its hand. The lesson Mahito has to learn is one that's been shown in many stories, but few have told it like this. His mother's death is something he has to accept and move on from, so this position of power is just one that would lead him to have everything exactly as he wants, an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle. His world and his history are his truth, and so he turns down the offer. But then the Parakeet King tries to take it, and everything goes to shit. This escape sequence is tense and experimental, with the stone tower becoming a corrupted void, destroying the entire universe. Mahito, Himi, and the Heron rush to get out and find that Natsuko has been rescued by Kuriko, who goes through the door to the past with Himi, while Mahito and the Heron bring Natsuko back to their own world. By this point, the story is mostly wrapped up, but there's a few more moments that really reinforce the message in a beautiful way. The Heron, a character I have scarcely mentioned, delivers one of the most memorable scenes in the movie, telling Mahito that he will eventually forget everything that happened in the other universe, and that that is okay and natural, drawing parallels to Mahito's mother's death, and how he has to move on from that. This is a super important scene to let you know that the Heron truly was Mahito's guide the whole time, and had an actual lesson to teach him from the beginning despite seeming like a goofy sidekick. It's a great moment. Then you get the final line of the movie where Mahito, his father, Natsuko, and the new little brother move back to Tokyo, the city where Mahito's first mother died. It's likely they moved away to escape the feeling of her presence, but now they've accepted it and are ready to go back. Fucking beautiful. I like it a lot. The Boy and the Heron is another Studio Ghibli banger, and it's one of their best, easily making the top 10. The surreal, dreamy, trippy vibe is crafted with elements you wouldn't see anywhere else, and the way Miyazaki is able to make a simple message feel so powerful that it's like the universe is hinging on it, because it kinda is unreal and very impressive. The theater experience with the subtitled version was also immaculate, the sounds going directly in my ears, and my entire line of sight being taken up by the screen is exactly what I want for a movie like this. I want to be absorbing it. This is one I'll have to watch again, probably the dubbed version this time, because I really want to hear Robert Pattinson as a big annoying bird. But for now, I'm going with a 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed myself, and the ending made my heart hurt, so I think it's a fair score. This is definitely going to be up there when it comes to my 2023 top 10 list, which should be coming soon. Thank you very much for watching this double review. If you're not already subscribed, do that. I usually release videos on Saturdays. And give me a little like because it'll make me happy. Whatever, man, you gave me a view. That's gonna make me happy already. I'm a desperate son of a bitch. Anyways, I'll see you later. Bye now.